Hi, everybody. My name is Diane Borman. I'm a multi award winning business growth specialist. What do I do? This is always interesting. People ask me. I'm not a coach, I'm not a mentor, and I'm not a consultant. I'm a business growth expert. That means that I'm here to help you increase your sales, increase your profit, and increase your confidence. All while we add practical business knowledge so that you can make better business decisions. As you grow, and that's who I work with, is business owners that want to grow to the next level. And as we grow to that next level, we need new knowledge. We need wisdom sometimes. We can't just be doing the same old, trying to get to that next level. The problem that I solve is practical knowledge. My experience comes from owning my own businesses, selling them, building a franchise levels business, etc. And so that information I share. And I've been working with hundreds of business owners now, doing what I've been doing over the last number of years. And we give you access to an ecosystem which often we don't have. So experts surround me in certain areas, from legal, from numbers, from all sorts of areas, and I will teach you how to build your experts around you. We also help you with the building of strategies and plans, and of course the implementation behind that. But also we hold you accountable for what your goals are and for what you want to achieve. Sometimes business owners and entrepreneurs find being in business extremely lonely. Sometimes it's scary. And most of the times they don't have enough practical knowledge because they haven't done that jump to the next level yet. So we help you because what we stand for, what I stand for, is gaining and sharing knowledge and wisdom for innovation and pushing your boundaries, most certainly, and your limits. You didn't realize that you can get to that next level in many instances. We move businesses from 6 or 7 figures to 8 figure businesses. I want to share my voice in a public speaking scenario, but I'm also there to facilitate in different workshops and one on one where we work through the diamond plan. You most certainly will have a lot of fun. We will laugh lots. I have a very infectious laugh, and if you're feeling stressed, that laugh is going to get to you, guaranteed. But I'm also going to share my experience. I'm here to inspire, motivate, and educate business owners for growth so that you can increase your sales, your profit, and your confidence. What I won't stand for is inauthenticity, because we will discover that along the way, stagnation in business, and just simply boringness. We don't want to be boring ever. We need that level of innovation, that level of creativity. So I'm here to help you build an ecosystem. I want you to take the time to be supported by business owners. And I want this ecosystem to be working together, adding positivity to one another, whilst employing and making impact in the economy. Well, welcome everybody. It's just on 9 o'clock, and it's very exciting to see that the entrepreneurs and business owners jump on time. Everybody else is coming late. I'm not going to let them in the door. Um, it's my privilege to have Alex join us today. I have her book, a signed copy of her book. So if you don't know, she is an author, and you can go and find her book on AI. It is very interesting. Even people like me can understand it. So that's quite exciting. Um, Alex is a top or head African tech speaker. That means that she's traveled globally, Africa, to go and talk about tech. In fact, she actually hosted one of the tech events that happened, which was also fantastic to see. Her knowledge is beyond. So if your answers are not answered today, please keep them and reach out to Alex. She will have an answer for you. Also, if you are listening to what Alex is saying now, please pop into the chat if there's a specific question that you have to ask. in your area of business or what you do to make it more efficient and more effective, because this is how we gain insights into how we can make a change in our business. And from a practical point of view, it becomes really important. Alex has owned her own company. She's worked in corporate. She's stood on stage. She's written books. And all of that knowledge becomes really important for all of you to tap into right now. To access her as a consultant is really expensive. So today is your only chance to answer those questions. So make sure you are making notes, make sure you are listening to what Alex is saying, and pop those questions into the chat. Alex, over to you.
More than right.
Thank you for joining us. It's really exciting to see you here, and thank you for taking the time out.
Fantastic, Di. Thank you so very much for having me. It's always great to see you and to be on these calls. I hope that everyone here learns something, and I hope that you find this engaging and enjoyable. I know that with tech, a lot of the time, people who talk tech, well, we love our jargon, don't we? And it can be completely incomprehensible. So I certainly hope that when I talk to you, I'm translating tech into English. Before I hop into death by PowerPoint. No, promise it's not death by PowerPoint. But before I open the presentation, and then we kick off, there was just a question in the chat that I'd like to start off with from Karen, going about the legality of using AI meeting tools. So we can see there are quite a few meeting assistants joining this call, and I certainly find that in most of my calls, there's at least one who joins. And Karen, it's an interesting question because there isn't any legislation currently. It kind of falls under the same bracket as using a meeting recording or meeting transcript. And most of them, you can either kick them out or say don't, or kind of say disengage or unsubscribe to turn them off. What we're finding, especially in corporate, is that they tend to be banned because most of the AI assistants, people tend to use them are the free versions. And that means that anything is actually going up to the company who owns it. So the information is technically mineable. So it really comes down more to IP and sort of on a company level. There hasn't been anything, as far as I know, that's gone to court about it. But basically, if you are, like in your case with attorney-client privilege, if you're using it, just make sure that it is a paid version that has, and that you've read the T's and C's very carefully to make sure that it is covered in terms of what information they're using and how they're using it, much with any kind of personal and private information. They are amazing, and we'll talk a little bit about them later, but you do have to bear that in mind if you're using them, because obviously, you want to make sure that your data, it does remain privileged, and you're not just handing over corporate IP to OpenAI or one of the other ones. But let us start here. If you have any questions, please, basically, will everyone just sort of speak up? I am on a single screen, so I can't see them come up. I'm happy to take questions during the presentation. Otherwise, we can leave them for afterwards. And we'll also be doing a little bit of kind of live demo for this, because a lot of this is actually really exciting to see it when it is live. I love tech. I get very excited about this. So I really hope that this session is engaging and that you got a lot of questions for me. But before we get into that, let's kind of look at the history of the internet, the evolution of the internet. Who remembers this sound? Yep. Now, this was our life back in the 90s. It was terrible. And if someone made a phone call, your internet disappeared. Really, really awful. I'm going to turn that down because there's sound that went off. But yeah, that sound was truly awful, but that was our life. Then, and this over here, we've got Microsoft Internet Central. That was the internet really when it launched in Windows 95. It was before Windows 95. If we have a little look here, this is what Amazon looked like in 1994. Can you imagine? They only sold books. Weird, huh? And BuzzFeed, who remembers the dancing baby from Ally McBeal? This is what the internet looked like in 1994. Completely crazy. The very first webcam was not used for meeting conferences. It was at a university, and they used it just using a regular little camera to see when the coffee machine was full of coffee. So they only had to get up their desks when the coffee machine was ready. That was the very first webcam. And nowadays we are sitting on this, all using webcams. It's completely normal. This was what chat looked like back in the day. So we didn't have the likes of Zoom. We didn't have WhatsApp. We didn't have Slack or Teams or any of those ones where we chat on the internet. So I see someone is not muted. If I can just ask everyone to mute because there's a bit of background noise. But this is how we chatted on the internet. There were things called bulletin boards, which is the black and white stuff on the left, and IRC. So some of you might recognize this. This was how we talked to each other. There was no such thing as online voice calling. See, and then we had social media. We're now getting into the early 2000s, and hey, we had social media, the Facebook. Bet no one remembered that, but originally it was the Facebook. Twitter, very, very different. And YouTube back in the day. A quick point of interest, did you know that YouTube started out as a dating site? It genuinely did. Obviously, that's not how it stayed, but that's what YouTube was originally conceived as. And nowadays, we have a million apps that do a million different things. And the point of this really is to tell you, to explain and show in a very real way how technology changes exponentially. Technology is this top curve. It goes up and it is moving and developing faster now than it ever has before in the history of the world. But here's the problem. Organizations and people, we don't change exponentially. We change much more slowly. And in organizations in particular, the bigger the organization, the slower it changes. But the challenge to close the gap gets harder and harder over time. And the problem is you get that gap wide enough, and eventually you're going to have a disruption event. Could be something external. COVID was a massive disruption event. Suddenly we had to figure out from working in the office every day how to work from home. That's when the likes of Zoom and Teams and assorted programs exploded. We had video conferencing before that, but it certainly wasn't ubiquitous the way it is now. The other way that a disruption can occur, especially for an organization, is actually a very damaging one. An organization can go out of business, or an organization can have a massive downturn. And that's because you may not be keeping up with tech. You may not be keeping up with the changes of the world, but your competitors are. You can be the biggest fish in the pond, and the tiny little fishy that comes along behind you is suddenly the next biggest one, and you don't know how you even ended up out of business. So that's why it's important to know about what's happening in technology and start to think about how you can use it and leverage it in a way that makes sense. Not because you think you have to, not because it's the trendy thing to do, but because it makes sense. So today we're going to chat about AI. And when we think about AI, we generally, when people talk about AI these days, people are typically thinking about ChatGPT. They're thinking about generative AI. But AI actually isn't new. AI has been around since the 1950s. Like genuinely, it's been around since the 1950s. And it's actually an umbrella term. So artificial intelligence, basically all that means is it's a computer doing the thought work instead of a human programming to tell it exactly what to do. I'm going to very quickly fly through this. Machine learning basically means we chuck a bunch of data and a bunch of programming at a computer and say, you figure this out, you do your own thing. And it comes up with insights and it does its own thing. We then get deep learning, and that's when we really start to try and teach a computer to think like a human. And from that, we get into generative AI, and that is when we're using AI to really produce content for us, to give back in a way that we understand. LLMs just stands for large language models. You don't need to worry about that. It basically just means there's a hell of a lot of data sitting underneath that the program is trained on. Think of it as school for AI. And then you get GPT. GPT is just a model. Again, you don't need to worry about it. I only mention it because the product, ChatGPT, so you can see I've got my little captions at the bottom. I can't hear without my captions. But that's where we really get to at the bottom. It's ChatGPT and its ilk. It is using these bottom models and that is the product. And today we're really going to chat a lot about this bottom one, ChatGPT, but not just ChatGPT, because as entrepreneurs, a lot of you have small businesses or relatively small businesses, and you, and I say this as an entrepreneur myself, you're doing a lot of the work yourself. And I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room wants two things. They want more time and more money. And if I'm wrong, well, I can't see if I'm wrong, but I hope that a lot of you are nodding yes, so that yes, I would love to have more money. I would love to have more time. And that's what technology and AI in particular can do for you in a very short amount of time. It really can help you if you use it in the right way. Which means that there are a few things we need to think about because there are a lot of strategic implications as business owners when we look at AI. And that's it's changing the competitive landscape. You don't have to use AI. You don't need an AI app. You don't need to be using it in your business, but other people are. We have seen that there are AI apps at the height of it about a year ago. There were thousands, literally thousands of apps being released every week in the AI space. There have been something like $50 billion worth of venture capital investment in AI companies in the last 3 years. Unfortunately, there have only been about $3 billion worth of revenue made. So we can see that this is not sustainable. But we're already seeing that it's transforming business models. It's changing the competitive landscape. It's transforming business models. And the big guys have been scrambling. That's why Microsoft bought 50% of OpenAI. That's why we're seeing more and more companies coming out with these grand pronouncements because they cannot afford to be left behind. But it means a few other things. We've got to actually start thinking about data and AI strategy. It's not just we're going to use this, it's how we're going to use this effectively in order to meet our goals and our outcomes. We've got to look at cross-functional collaboration. So, especially this is more for big organizations, but the way you're using it and the way your supplier is using it or someone in a different department is using it, can you collaborate in a way that makes sense? Are you using it at cross purposes? These are the things you need to start thinking about. The easiest way really is to start thinking of AI as an extra employee, and you need to treat it as such. You need to actually think of it in part of your ecosystem of how you're working. Skill set's changing. Absolutely, the skill set's changing. The whole narrative of AI is going to steal my job. And the response to that really is always no, but someone using AI is going to steal your job. But that's also a little bit too simplistic. And that's because AI, while it probably won't steal all of the jobs, you're not going to need, Corin, 100 extra lawyers a year. You're going to need 10 extra lawyers a year. It doesn't get rid of the human touch, but it does mean that people can do things more efficiently, and you're not going to need as many people in certain industries. I have a lot of chats with people in the education space, and especially parents, because they're like, my kid must be an accountant or they must be a lawyer, because those are safe careers. But they're not safe careers anymore. Those are two of the areas that are being fundamentally disrupted by AI, not because they're going to put those people out of business, but because we're not going to need as many people doing it. So it's not a safe option anymore. You've got to change the skill set. And that doesn't mean necessarily using AI specifically, but it means things like critical thinking. Is what you're getting back, does it make sense? And we don't teach critical thinking in schools. We don't teach critical thinking in business a lot of the time. And that's one of the fundamental skills for the future is critical thinking and how you use that in a context where, number one, you've got computers who are acting as employees, and number two, you have employees interacting with computers without questioning what they're getting out of it. Next we get to is ethical and responsible AI usage. Because, yeah, while technology is neither good nor bad, people are good or bad. So people can do a lot of really creepy things with it, or really like bad things with it. One example that I always use, last year in Hong Kong, guy got a phone call from his boss who was on holiday, said like, dude, I need you to please like release this money. It's an emergency. But this guy was like, no, I've done my training. I know that we need to check this. This sounds a little bit dodgy. He says, okay, let's get on a Teams call. So they did. It was him and his boss and a number of other people he had worked with previously in the business. They had this call. He recognized everyone. He recognized their backgrounds. He recognized their mannerisms. He's cool. He released something like $25 million. And it turned out that the only person on that call who worked for the company was him. The others were all what we call deep fakes. They were using AI in real time to superimpose the look and the sound of his colleagues on that live Teams call. I talk to a lot of internal audit departments. How do you actually be able to work against this? What can you do about this? And it's very much an evolving space, but that's the type of thing that you can do with AI. AI, we know, has a problem in a number of cases with bias. How do you make sure you're using AI responsibly and in a way that's not going to cause harm? And this is very much a conversation that is evolving over time because as we evolve the conversation, the technology is also evolving. And then there's the human touch. One of the best things I ever read about AI content creation was, why would I want to read something that nobody bothered to write? And it's a good thing to think about because AI is not creative. AI by itself cannot be creative, but it can take what it's been trained on and pull that together like a puzzle to create something new. But ultimately, what you put into AI, what you ask it to do in the way that you ask it, that's what is going to make the difference. And I think we're really going to see in the coming years a return, especially in art, in content, in writing, in presenting, to the human touch. People want to know that it has gone through a human mind because for the first time, this is actually something that is meaningful in a way that perhaps we didn't appreciate before. It's always been meaningful, but we didn't appreciate until we saw all the content coming through generative AI, and suddenly everyone's an author, everyone's an influencer, everyone's an artist. And yes, everyone can be those things, but we're wanting more and more the human touch, the human skills, the human expertise. There's some common pitfalls, and those we really need to bear in mind before we get into the demo, which is the exciting stuff. And the first is AI can do everything. No, AI can do a lot. Should it do it? Yes and no. You've got to make sure you're using it in the right cases. But it can't do everything, and it can't do everything as well as a person. Sometimes some stuff it does better, some stuff it does worse. And if you don't know where the difference is, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it. AI will solve everything. No, it won't. Aside from anything else, the best AIs out there, the ones that are the most well-trained, they are the most specific, are only accurate 83% of the time. That's the top tier, which means that actually, it's number 4 point, AI is accurate. It's probably more accurate than the person on a day-to-day basis, but it's not accurate. And you think of something like law, and the 83% stat comes from some of the AIs that are specific for the legal industry. That 17% makes a big difference in a very real way. AI will fix my data issues. No, it won't. That's one of the biggest problems we have with AI, really, is that garbage in, garbage out. If the data you're putting into it, if it's being trained on garbage, you're not going to get a good result because the underlying data is wrong. So it's not going to fix your data issues. It's just going to take them and actually make it worse. Because there's one thing AI is very good at, it's creating bad content on the internet and elsewhere. And that just goes back into the training model. So we are diluting good information over time. And when I say we're training on it, we take ChatGPT, it is trained on the internet. And yes, that has scientific articles, that has well-researched journalism, but it also has the left-wing conspiracy theories, the right-wing conspiracy theories, well, those the wrong way around. It's got the mommy blogs, it's got the gossip sites, it's got all of this stuff, and it's put into a melting pot. And AI doesn't know the difference. What AI does is it looks at it and says, what is the next most likely word that I need to put into a sentence for it to make sense in the context that you've given me? That's literally all it does. It doesn't think concepts, it thinks words. You've got to be very, very careful. Me and my people absolutely know how to use AI. No, you don't. At least not as well as you could. And most people don't actually know how to use it before. One of the biggest things I do with corporates is actually working with them to work with their staff, because they just think, oh, they can go and do it. And they don't know what their staff are doing with their custom IP, for example. They don't know what they're doing with their client's IP because they don't know what they're doing. And they think that just banning ChatGPT is going to solve the problem. It's not. You need to know what to do with AI so you can have that chat with your staff members about what they're doing so they're not putting you at risk. And oh my favorite one, people can't tell that I'm using AI. Yeah, so AI has a lot of tells. So you can definitely see when someone has written something and has just gone, write me this. There are a lot of words that come up. Paradigm shift is a lovely one. But there are a lot of things that really you can tell. If you're reading it, I'm sure a lot of you can see now, if you read things on LinkedIn, you can tell when something has been written by AI. One of the biggest tells is actually it always uses long sentences. So if every single sentence is a long sentence, the odds are good that it's been written by an AI. I know a lot of recruiters who, if they think a CV has been written by AI, they don't even bother reading it. They just chuck it immediately into the discard pile. That's also a problem because they're actually missing out on a lot of really good talent because people know they can't write a good CV, so they ask AI to do it. But actually, it's the human touch. They look at it, go, oh, AI wrote this, it must be junk. But actually, maybe it's not junk. People just didn't know how to use it in a way to make themselves appear the right candidate, but they did it in a way that it came across too AI, so they got completely removed, even though they might have been the right person for the job. But even if you ask the right questions, there are a lot of ways that companies are using and educators to detect AI. There are a lot of programs that do it. So this is undetectable AI, and I put in my bio. It says my content appears human. Cool, that's great. It's got a whole bunch of the main models that are used, and most of them say, yes, I'm human. OpenAI, there might be some OpenAI in there. And interestingly, I did actually use ChatGPT-2, which is OpenAI, to write the first draft of it. I then rewrote it, but it flagged that actually OpenAI, there's some OpenAI in there. Now you can click this humanize button. It's really annoying for me because most of what that does is just add some spelling and grammar errors. And I make very few spelling and grammar errors because my mom was a sub-editor for the newspaper for 20 plus years, 30 plus years, 40 plus, a long time. So I'm very good at grammar and spelling. So if I click humanize and it adds spelling errors, I get annoyed. But it can do that. This, on the other hand, my content was definitely written by AI. And this takes a click. I don't even need a subscription service. So your content can absolutely be detected as AI, and this becomes a problem in proposal writing. If you're using ChatGPT or similar to write your proposal, companies are using tools like this to check. And if you're using AI for it, odds are good that they're just going to immediately put it aside, regardless of whether you can actually deliver or not. Now we're going to get into the demos. This is the fun part, keeping an eye on the time. Uncommon uses of generative AI. So when we think of using ChatGPT and similar, the typical ways people use them is write me some content, write me an email, maybe do some research for me, note on the research that accuracy stat, only accurate 83% of the time. So not only is it not necessarily trained on 100% accurate information, it also makes things up. It's called AI hallucinations. So sometimes the stuff it writes is completely made up. To continue on my legal examples here, as a New York lawyer discovered to his detriment, he used ChatGPT to come up with his case precedent. Unfortunately, the case precedent it came up with was completely made up, did not exist. And he almost had his license revoked. The judge was not impressed. But that happens a lot. If it doesn't have the information, it will make things up. And a lot of the time, you can actually say afterwards, is this real or did you make it up? And it will admit to making it up. Business coaching. Nowadays, we all need a business coach, and Diane is absolutely fantastic. We need business coaches, we need business mentors, we need business advisory. We can't always afford to be able to get it. But you can use AI to help you do some business coaching and some business advisory. You can train it all about your business and get information that is very specific to your business to get coaching on it. So that means that if you need some technology skills and you can't get hold of me, well, you can use AI to help you with that. Got to bear in mind those side bits about accuracy, but you can certainly get some information out of it. You can certainly get good information out of it. Personalized learning. We've got some serial learners on the call. If you want to learn about something, you don't necessarily get ChatGPT to teach you, but you can come up with a learning schedule or a learning way of learning that makes sense to you. Tell it how much time you have, tell it what you want to learn. It will come up with a schedule for you. It can help you out. You can say, explain AI to me as if I'm a 10-year-old and use an analogy of horses. It will do that for you. It can make complex things very, very easy to understand. And this is great as well if you've got kids. If they're not understanding something, they've got a special interest. For instance, my son loves Fortnite. If he's not getting something, I can get ChatGPT to take an English assignment and say, okay, explain this in Fortnite terms. And it explains it. Again, you've got to use your critical thinking to make sure it's doing the right thing, but it can explain it in a way that is very, very personal. Sales scripts and email sequences, yeah. Who hates cold calling? Me. But you can get ChatGPT to write very effective sales scripts, write very effective email sequences. better than you could do yourself if it is not your core expertise. So that's the type of thing people don't think about. They don't think that maybe this can write it for me. And I'm not saying just say, write me a sales script. You need to give the right prompt. And we're going to see what that looks like. Competitor analysis, another really, really good one. I don't know about you. I've done a lot of competitor analyses in my life, and it's a pain. Go to their website, see what's there, go and see if I can find some reviews, sees what's there. I can now get AI to actually go and find all those things for me and give me the references so I can go and check it. And it is so much quicker for me to be able to see. And I can also say to it, okay, now based on this and what you know about my business, what are some of the gaps that I could address that my current competitor is not doing the best at? Really, really easy way to try and find a new product for your market. Interviews with business gurus, and we're going to do one of these, and task management and research. Now, if you're like me, you've got a hell of a lot on your plate and you don't always remember about everything you need to do. You can use AI as your personal assistant in a very meaningful way that actually reminds you every day what you have to do. So let's have a look at what that's going to look like. Tasks. Cool. So here is my ChatGPT Pro. Close that there. And this is the first thing I want to show you. So this is the paid for version of ChatGPT, and I'm using ChatGPT because most people know it and understand it. It's not the only the only tool. We'll talk about a number of other ones shortly, but it is one of the ones that's best known, which is why I use it for these talks. They now have this thing called tasks. You see there's ChatGPT 4.0 here. If you're on the paid version, you can choose different ones. And I can go more models. Wait, it's not there. How do I find it? Okay, so I'm just going to come here. I will have to just put in the chat or get Di to send off to you where to find this. Judy had it set up and then, of course, can't find the, the link. But you can use it to do daily tasks. So I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top. You see there's a lot here. Check the latest AI news daily at 9 a.m. So every morning it checks for me. It gives me, it goes and it actually searches the web. So this is why you have the paid version, because it actually lets you do stuff that it can't, that the free version doesn't let you do. But it goes and searches the web. It gives me the link through. And every day it gives me the latest AI news. It gives me my links, gives me my sources. Here's a daily summary schedule that I've also do. This is where I want to sort of a summary of a lot of different things. So every day it gives me AI news, entrepreneurial trends, macro factors for South Africa, and latest news on neurodiversity. So this just takes me 10 minutes every morning just to kind of read through and maybe click through if I want more information. But this is really useful to me. This, if I wanted to do this on a daily basis, would probably take me at least an hour every day, maybe more. Now I'm getting this information on a daily basis. I could use this to say, remind me. In fact, let's do this. Please remind me to at 9 a.m. South African Standard Time every day about let's say meditating for 10 minutes. There we go. So it's thinking about life. So it's telling me now it can do this. What it can do if I'm in ChatGPT is I can actually go and talk to it. It can't currently send me daily reminders, but it can tell me. So this is saying it can't do something. But if I say, okay, well, that's fine. So please create a daily meditation routine or meditation for me. Let's see if this one will work. This is quite new, so we're still figuring what it can and can't do. There we go, daily meditation. So every day I can check in here, and here we go. It's telling me exactly what to do. So I struggle with meditation, but I'm always on my laptop. So as long as I'm logging in here, and interestingly, it does actually email me to remind me about this. So it tells me exactly what I need to do. Fantastic. I don't need to go and actually search what is meditation. It'll literally just do this for me, and I can customize this as deeply or as lightly as I want. But it's very cool. I don't have to ask it every day, give me meditation. It literally every day will do this. You'll see on the side there, I have project folders. Also a very nice nifty thing that you can do now is I can take my various different chats and put them into different folders. So we can see here, I've got an AI, if it's my content strategy, AI go-to-market strategy, innovation topics with twists, roadmap. So I use this a lot to help me plan for things. But let's do a fun one. What can I help with? Marketing is obviously a big thing for us in entrepreneurship. And one of the top direct marketers in the world is a guy called Russell Brunson. I'm not particularly good at marketing. I don't come from a marketing background. So everything I know, I have learned. But when I'm doing stuff within the work I do with entrepreneurs and technology, I'm busy kind of launching things there. And I want to have a chat with Russell Brunson. I want to kind of figure out what to do, but I don't even know what to ask the guy. So what I'm going to do is just ask it here. So you are Russell Brunson. I have the opportunity, sorry, to very, very simple. I can make the prompt quite a lot more in depth, but in the interest of the demo, we're going to do this quite quickly. So here are some of the questions I could ask him. If I was starting a small consulting business today with no audience and limited budget, what exact steps would I take? And what's most effective? So I like these questions. This is great. I'm not going to say you are Russell Brunson. Please answer these questions in detail in a way that a non-marketing professional can understand. So now it knows who it's meant to be. So it's going to give me information based on who it is. It's going to assume that I don't have any information. So now it's going to answer as if they're Russell Brunson. It's going to take all the information it has about him, all the content he's written, and it's going to give me this really, really cool response. So I can now take this and I can work with this. I'm going to let it go in the background. But if you don't know how to do marketing or sales or technology or finance, you can use an AI tool as your assistant. It's not to say you're not going to go out and hire someone or get a consultant, but that's to say that you do not need to get an expensive consultant off the bat. Now, if you want to go to a Russell Brunson workshop, for example, I've seen it costs something like $250,000 to attend. It's insane. This costs me $20 a month, and I can ask every single expert out there questions to be able to help me with my business. So any area where you are struggling within your business, you can find an expert online and you can say, okay, now answer these questions as if you are that expert. There we go. So it's still busy funnel. I can now take this and say, create me a free lead magnet. I can say, create a funnel for my business. I can take those and I can actually get into a very, very meaningful set of outcomes. And I've actually done that. I've said, create a 4-step funnel for me. Find 10 ideas for lead magnets that I could do. And from that, I can take it and I can build off that. It's great for first drafts. It's not fantastic necessarily for final content, but it's great for first drafts. It's great for helping you be able to structure things. Let's move. Okay, it's 25 to. I'm going to do maybe kind of 5 more minutes on a couple of demos, and then we'll get to the questions because I do see there are questions coming through. So let's think. What did I have on my little list of things that can do here? Learning, sales script, competitor. Okay, yes, let's do that. Let's do some quick competitor analysis. I'm going to do a new chat. Different GPT models. I'm going to actually use O3 Mini, which is for advanced reasoning, and I wanted to search and do deep research. I want to do deep research. So that's really going to go quite deep down. This might take a little bit longer. Please find me information about, let's think about this. Okay, let's go with the top entrepreneurial Prince, pick place within, oh, oopsie, Africa, and find me gaps where I could offer services. Now, this isn't a great prompt. I haven't given it very much information, but it knows it's not a great prompt. So it's now going to actually give me different clarifications. What am I looking for? So this is where the reasoning model comes in mind. If I'd used this just within the regular ChatGPT model, either 4, which is the normal one, I think they're currently using probably 4, regular 4 is the normal one. It would have just given me an answer, but this uses reasoning. Last thing I just want to show you before we get into questions is GPTs. And again, these are only in the paid model. But look, at $20 a month, you cannot get a staff member for $20 a month. It is worth its weight in gold. And I'm going to go for a guy called Ruben Hassid. He is a very good content creator on YouTube, but he does a lot of stuff in AI. And I want to find out my ideal customer. So I'm going to start my chat. Now, there are a lot of these custom models for pretty much anything out there. Generally, you want to find the ones that are either by someone who you know who they are or that have very, very good reviews. But we all know we've got to have an avatar. We know who we need to know who we're selling to. But we're not always really able to figure out who that is. So what this is going to do is going to take me through the process. This is specifically for LinkedIn content, but it's going to ask me, who's my primary audience made up? And I don't even have to think about this. Entrepreneurs, startups, corporate professionals. Okay, I'm going to go with entrepreneurs. A. Narrow it down. What stage of entrepreneurship? Got early stage, growth stage. Okay, I want growth stage entrepreneurs. Stop. I know I'm doing this very quickly. You probably can't read it on the screen, but it's asking me questions and I'm able to select my answers. Let's see, there's scaling sales and revenue, investment, building a high-performing team, brand positioning, operational efficiency, and systems. Let's go for both. Let's go with A and E. So now it's telling me my audience is growth stage finders actively scaling their business, and these are their struggles. What is their motivation? Let's say they are networking and relationship based, and they're quite fast moving and scrappy. They're really willing to experiment with things. And if you're here and you're on this call, I'm going to guess you are willing to experiment and to actually see how technology could work for you. How do they consume content? Okay, they're networking, they're relationship based, which means they're going to want stories. And they're going to want some tactical step-by-step guides. They want to be able to see how they can do things. Now let's define tone. Yeah, let's just do direct and no nonsense. A and B. Now I could add all of these, or I could do none of them and specify my own, but I'm going to keep doing that. Now it'll give me a summary. Now think about how long this would take you to do if you had to sit down with a piece of paper and do this. This has taken me, what, 2 minutes so far? I'm going to say impact and legacy is what their emotional driver is. I wouldn't even have thought of what is their emotional driver the first time I was doing this. So already, even if I don't use what it gives me, it's already helped me to think. The biggest pain point with LinkedIn, I'm going to say it's B and C. You know, my target audience does not have time to read 5,000 words. You can see this is actually quite a long one. There are a lot of ones that are shorter. I'm not actually going to complete this. This will get me to the end. But let's say C. But whatever my response are there, it will ultimately come up with Sarah, who is these are what she wants to do. I'm not going to keep doing this in the interest of time, but you can kind of see where it's getting to. It's fine-tuning my thinking, it's fine-tuning my audience. And at the end, what this comes up with literally is your ideal target audience is Sarah, a 40-something entrepreneur who's looking to scale her business. She likes this, and this is how you should be targeting her. It really makes such a difference, especially when you're either in the startup phase of your business or when you're trying to really target things down. And a lot of us, even when we're in successful businesses, things change over time. Or maybe we didn't do this exercise, or maybe we want to enter a new market. Whatever your pain point is, there is something that can help you without you needing to spend a lot of money to do it, which I think really is the point here. I could get this to build me a video. I could get it to write me an app. I could get this to create images for me, to create a presentation for me, literally in PowerPoint format. I can do all of these things. And that means that I have a hell of a lot of power that I would otherwise need to hire people for or figure out how to do it myself. Very, very quick one. I will send this afterwards. I'm not going to go through everything now, but I will send this to Di for you guys to send out. You can do a lot of things with the different tools. There's ideation, there's meeting notes, there's images, there's video generators, transcription. So we see these in meeting tools, but you can get everything that you say transcribed. Same with speech to text. Some people think better in written word. Some people think better in spoken word. If you are not someone who likes to type, fine. Find a program that is going to type for you. Previously, you'd have to pay a lot of money for transcription. Now you can get ones that are literally for free or for pennies. If you're doing research, don't use ChatGPT. Perplexity or Como are much better tools for that. Perplexity is fantastic. I use it all the time. You've got website builders that will build things for you on the fly. Avatar videos. I created an ad had 4 or 5 different people who were talking. It was a 30-second ad. It took half an hour to create, and it looks like real people. It looks like they're talking. I selected the voice. I wrote the script. I selected the people. It was on a free platform. It cost me nothing. Half an hour to an advert that probably would have cost me 100,000 Rand if I actually went to an agency to do it. Prospecting. Don't even know who you need to target. Telescope, you can put in who your ideal customer is, and it will search LinkedIn for you and find you contact details. You can create logos. You can create lead generation. The tools are out there, and we don't even think about the fact that they are there and that they could be useful to us. If you're still busy scrolling through LinkedIn trying to find people who could be your customers, there are better ways to do it. So I'm going to stop there and really get into the questions, because I'm sure there are questions there. My final point before I do is just to say you do need to bear things in mind. It is not a cure-all. It is not going to solve all your problems, and using it badly in some ways is worse than not using it. Using it badly is worse than not using it at all. Basically, it can make things worse if you do it badly. You do need to think about the legislation. You need to think about the fact that if you are not using a paid version and you haven't specifically opted in to say, do not add to model, which means don't add it to the underlying data set, you could be giving confidential and privileged information away to the companies who own this tool. Legislation is still busy being figured out. We don't know what the precedent is going to be around these tools. I mean, who takes responsibility? Is it the company who created it? Is the person using it? What jurisdiction applies? There's a lot of stuff that is still being evolved with it. Personal information, likewise, you don't want to be putting personal info into an AI tool unless it is a paid for one, which is very clear about the privacy requirements, because again, could come back to bite you. So use a little bit of critical thinking, but my outcome really is it can do a lot of stuff. What can it do for you? Now let's hop over into questions. I'm sure there are a lot. And if they're not, I can very happily talk for another 15 minutes.
There are. Drina, do you want to open up your chat and then just tell Alex what you mentioned and what your questions are?
Yes, so I did put in, since COVID, there has been a lot of online training. So the world realized that they can do virtual training, exams, assignments, and as I'm studying again, sorry, I realized when you read the assignments and the chat groups, what is AI? Like you say, you can see when it's AI. And I get the feeling that a lot of our coming generations are not going to be clever within the workspace because they are using AI. So they're not studying, they are rather taking AI answers and just putting it in there. So do you also see that as a risk to business and going forward?
So I have a lot of fundamental issues with the education system as it is, regardless. But I have an alternate take on that, quite interestingly. So my kids are 8 and 10, and they do use AI tools, but they actually use it not just to find the answer. And that will change. I see a lot of kids who do just find the answers and copy and paste. But actually what it can do is it aids in understanding. So they might say, I don't get this. Summarize it for me or explain this better for me. So I actually see it as a learning tool. And I think one of the biggest problems that we're seeing in education right now, whether it's at the child level or at tertiary level, is that people are going, oh my God, no, AI is terrible. We've got to ban it. We've got to make sure they're not using it. When instead we should be saying, like a guy at Stanford did, I expect you to use AI. But with it, I expect you to put in what your prompts were, what the original response was, and what you got out of it. So it's changing how we think about it. Will make lazy. Yes, absolutely. But those were never the people who were going to get to greatness anyway. AI can get you to greatness more quickly than you were going to get there anyway. It's not good or bad. It's going to be what you used it for. And the kids these days who are using it, your Gen Alpha and your Gen Z, are using it in ways that we as slightly older people wouldn't even think of. It's really fantastic to watch how they're using technology. Scary, very scary sometimes, but their brains think differently. It's not about rote learning. And let's face it, most schooling is about rote learning. It's about interpretation. It's about understanding in a way that makes sense to them. It's about very personalized experiences. So we're going through a bit of a wobbly period right now where we're figuring out exactly what it can and can't do, what it should and shouldn't do. And what this looks like, I don't know. But I don't see it necessarily as a risk for business. I see it as a risk for businesses who don't think about it in the right way, who don't know how to leverage it, and who don't know how to work with it, or at least in an industry where it is being used. But I think that it's going to help us get to greatness better if we're willing to use it in a way that makes sense to us. And for the first time, tools are available to people that normally you would have to be super rich for. A side note just on that, I get asked, is this not something that is further going to increase the divide between the haves and the have-nots? So, only if you have a computer, you can use these tools. And that's why I love tools like the Meta or WhatsApp AI, because WhatsApp is used across this country and across Africa at a very broad level, means it is accessible to anyone to be able to use. So in some ways, it's actually breaking barriers down. So no, I don't necessarily see it as a risk, but I think it is a space that is being disrupted and is being transformed. And what it looks like in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, I wouldn't be putting firm money on any one of those cases. It can go a lot of different ways.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Drina. Kylie, do you want to put your camera on and and open your mic? Because you also had a statement and a comment. And maybe,
Fortunately, sorry that I actually lost my voice.
oh dear. Okay, so I'll read what you said and maybe you want to clarify. Kylie says, we've had candidates use AI plugin to assist in answering interview questions when they are conducting interviews online, not just with us as recruiters, but also with clients. Kylie, do you want to add to that?
So what we found is that we're seeing candidates are attending like online interviews and it's not just for like entry level positions. We're also seeing it with senior type candidates where, sorry, they've got these tools added on to the interview, and while the interviewer is asking them questions, AI is generating the answers. And they're basically reading off of that, or scanning, should I say, in terms of what they're seeing and answering their interviews based on what the question is that's been asked. So, yeah, and we're seeing it a lot. Also, like I know you mentioned about um, sort of people using it for assignments and for their CVs and stuff like that. As a recruiter, I can honestly say, like, if I see that a CV is generated by AI, I don't automatically throw it out the pot. I myself will actually look at it and read through it and understand, like, especially because I work majority of the time within the creative industry, and dealing with like graphic designers. I mean, it'd be different with a copywriter because they should be able to write their own CV. But like when it comes to designers or people that are generating graphic content, their focus is strictly on pictures and motion graphics and whatever the case may be. So for them to make use of an AI tool to write up their CV is not it's not anything that I feel would be against them. It's the fact that they're not a writer, they're not a copywriter. So, from that point of view, I think it's fair. I mean, I can't say for like other roles such as marketing or engineering or whatever the case may be, but like just to like sort of confirm the fact that, I mean, that's not something that I do. I don't know about other recruiters. And I do agree that it like, you end up throwing up potentially really good candidates that could actually do the role. So yeah, but that's what we've been seeing and how we found the candidates who conducted interviews as of late. And these companies are also, they've got tools that are actually tracking the software. So some of them can immediately tell when a candidate's using an AI plugin because they've got this other plugin that's actually tracking it. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
All
About
good.
my voice. It's only come on. So yeah.
Absolutely fine, Kylie. Alex, what comments do you have?
Absolutely. So I think this is one of those ones that's actually going to be in flux. So the first thing I would say is generally you can tell if someone is busy reading, you can actually tell when someone is reading. And it's going to, the reason I say it's a change, it actually falls into something that's a little bit bigger, and that's an understanding coming that not everyone is good at interviewing. Now, look, fraud is fraud. If the AI is saying, say that I have this experience and I don't, that is still fraud. But what I'm seeing, not on the tech space, but I also do work with neurodiversity, so differently wired brains. A lot of the larger companies globally are starting to send out interview questions in advance so that people can think about them, prepare for them. Because a lot of it, it's not a case that they don't have the answer, they don't have the expertise to answer. It's that they are not good at thinking on their feet, or they get very, very nervous. So my question would be, why are they using AI tools? A lot of it also, I think, comes down to desperation. People are desperate for a job, and they're going to use anything they can to try and come across in a way that they're not confident that they can put themselves forward as. So I think we just need to think about, how do we change things? If they're using these tools for online interviews, well, okay, cool. Send the questions beforehand. That then levels the playing field, because then everyone, regardless, is going to be able to do it beforehand. Can they use AI to check what the answers should be? Well, maybe, but when you're trying to think about their thought processes, maybe you need to ask different questions. The thing with all of this is that the genie is out of the bottle. You can't stop it. You might just want to say, hey, declare if you're using an AI tool. If they don't declare, well, then that's something that can be, then you can say, well, and if you don't declare and we find that you have been using it, that could exclude you. There are ways around this. But maybe it's also a case of saying, like, maybe one of the things we want to see is how well do people use AI. So if you're using an AI tool, you can wait to the end and go, hey, we think you've been using an AI tool. Have you been? What did they say about it? What did you find good about? What did you find bad about it? And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. We tend to think that these shortcuts are bad, but it doesn't have to be. We kind of start thinking critically about, what are we trying to get out of it? And as you said, some people are going to look at it and go, oh, they're using an AI tool. Too bad, you're out. But again, what are you missing out by that? Why are they using the AI tool? I think that's really where we need to start thinking about those questions. And if you're interviewing them before they go to the clients, it might be just a conversation with them going, these particular clients really hate when people use AI assistants in interviews. It's going to negatively impact on you. So I don't have a definite answer for you. As always, these are evolving spaces, but I think that it's one that can actually potentially be turned around to be advantageous. Maybe you become the recruiting agency that specializes in candidates who know how to use AI. How can you turn this to your benefit?
Absolutely. And Kylie, I want to add to that. I think that people that are using it are absolutely genius because they're getting assistance. We're supposed to be doing research and we're supposed to be surrounding ourselves with support structures. And if AI can help you do that, use it as a tool rather than a negativity. But if it's critical thinking, then maybe critical thinking is not really AI. So that would be a skill that you would have to give them something else to do to see if they can do critical thinking. But I think it's actually genius. I think it's fantastic. If we can use the tools and the support we have around us to move us forward, then why not?
Yeah.
Karen, let's finish off with you. Question.
I don't know if it's a question so much as it is a statement. So in the legal field, big warning, you have to be very, very careful. There was a case end of last year in South Africa, I think it was out of Gauteng, where a candidate attorney did research using ChatGPT, and ChatGPT literally made up 4 cases that supported, that's the bias it has, that supported her client's case. When it was before the courts, neither her principal nor the advocates checked to see that case law actually existed, and the judge did. And in the judgments, the judge actually directs the registrar of the court to report the candidate attorney and her principal to the LPC. So you have to be very careful that what you're getting out of it is correct, and that it's not making stuff up to help you. But I think, what you're saying, Alex, about it being useful for us is so true. You as well. If you know how to prompt it properly, I've watched a few webinars, and people have given prompts. For example, for my LinkedIn profile, I went on a LinkedIn course, and it gave you the prompts to ask it to generate a good LinkedIn profile, and I was just gobsmacked at what it came up with. And I also used it to find my Lisa, but with the right prompts, I was just wow. Like, I'd already had that idea, but it took it and it just expanded on it. So I think it's a great tool. I find it terrifying as an older person. But I think it really can be used to benefit us in great ways if we just use it properly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think that I think that what Alex said right in the beginning is really important for all of us to remember. It's a tool to help you. It's not to take away from industries or people or expertise, but it's a tool. So sometimes it gets you to think differently and out the box, which is what we want in certain instances. But once you've got some sort of strategy, you need to go and speak to experts. It's kind of as simple as what that gets down to. But know that there's tools, know that there's people like Alex around that can help you if you need some sort of strategy guidance, and know that there's a lot there that you can play with. A lot of it's for free. Remember, you're free. You can only get to a certain level, and then there's a problem. Your last sentence to everybody, Alex, if they had to leave today to go and do something that will help them in their business move forward, what would your one advice be?
I want everyone to go to ChatGPT or their AI tool of choice and think of who the top person in your industry is, and ask it to come up with 5 questions to ask that person and get it to answer it, and see what insights you can get from it, because that's really, it's an amazing exercise. And I think that everyone would benefit from that. If they get nothing else out, that'll give them some insights.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you to everybody. We've hit the 10 o'clock mark. Well done for coming, for jumping on, for listening, for spending time with an expert like Alex. We have recorded it. It will go on to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next month, bright and early on a Thursday morning. Thank you, everybody. Huge thank you, Alex. That was absolutely amazing. Everybody's got comments in the chat bar. So huge thank you, and go well, everybody. Keep growing your business. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Di and Alex.
Bye-bye.